welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you like this video so that you don't miss out on future videos. And I am so excited to film today's video because it's just something that I love. I'm trying to get better at sharing the things that I love on my YouTube channel, even if they don't particularly get views, and just sharing things because I genuinely enjoy sharing them and talking about them. So today we're talking about plants and I'm so excited. Grab a cup of coffee or tea, but probably coffee, and we'll go ahead and get started. I've been getting a lot of questions from you guys recently regarding my plants. I don't obviously share about them much here on YouTube, so these are coming from Instagram. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, I'll put my username right here. You guys can follow me. I post a lot of just like my day-to-day, basically a daily vlog on my stories, and I share about my plant babies. I have only been a proud houseplant owner for like maybe 2 years. The first year of that, I literally had one plant and it was a snake plant, which is a very common plant to start with because they're supposedly impossible to kill. So I figured that I would come to you with my best tips because I am such an amateur and I've grown my collection from like one plant to over 20 plants, and I have a big variety of plants. I still plan on getting more, and I've just been loving it. I've learned a lot. It's been a lot of trial and error. I can't say that this works for everyone, but can say for myself that taking care of plants has helped with my anxiety so much because I get to start something from scratch, watch it grow, nurture it every day. It's something that can take my mind off of like my mind and it's just something I can do with my hands. I genuinely enjoy doing it. I'm gonna start gardening this summer. Fingers crossed that it goes well. Hopefully it'll be something that you can enjoy, but obviously plants are pretty. They're basically home decor. It's very trendy right now to have plants in your house, and there's tons of health benefits to having plants in your house as well. So let's start off with the 3 main concerns that people have when they say that they can't have plants in their house. Real quick, I wanted to say I know that there are some plants that are toxic to animals, so if your animal is interested in them, I understand that you can't have them in the house, but I haven't had any issues. My dog doesn't care at all about my plants and has not shown any interest in them at all. And then I texted a few of my friends and asked them, like, what are their top 3 reasons for not wanting to have plants? And they kind of all are the same. 1, people say that they don't have a green thumb, that they always kill their plants. Number 2, they don't feel like they have enough light in their homes or their apartments to have plants. Number 3, they don't know which plants to buy or how to take care of them. So let's talk about number 1. You think that you kill every plant that you touch. Not true. Depends on what kind of plant you're buying. Each plant has specific care instructions. There's actually an app that you can use for it. It's called Picture This. Austin has it on his phone, so whenever we're out and about and we see a plant that I like, he takes a picture of it and it tells me what kind of plant it is, tells me what it likes, like how much water it likes, what kind of soil it likes, what kind of light it likes. Each plant is very different. So if you are in an apartment and you have no windows and no natural light, you're not going to want to get plants that require a lot of sunlight because they're probably not going to thrive in your environment. You have to look up plants that will thrive in the environment that you're in. So in my old apartment, I had things like snake plants and succulents and like a Chinese evergreen, and our old apartment had literally no natural light, and I was able to keep all of those plants alive just by putting them in areas that I felt like they would thrive in, and following their specific care instructions. That even if you have like no windows, plants can survive. There are plants called low light plants, medium light plants, and high light plants. So you can look up low light plants and try to focus on getting more of those types of plants if you don't really get lots of natural lights. There's also always solutions for adding light to your plants. Artificial lights like grow lights can be really affordable on Amazon. So you kind of just have to cater to your plant. Make sure you know what plant you're buying, read about it, figure out what it needs. A lot of people that say that they don't have a green thumb and that they kill all of their plants, they kill their plants because they overwater their plants. This is something that I did when I first started getting plants because I started out with the simple, hard to kill plants like aloe, succulents, and snake plants. And so since I had never owned plants before, I just assumed, like in the movies, I would wake up and water my plants or water them a couple times a week or once a week or whatever, and I knew nothing. I didn't know that your pots needed to drain, and most of the pots that my plants came in, or they didn't have drainage in the bottom, so all my plants were getting way overwatered and eventually just like shriveled up, got brown, and died. Got gnats or root rot, and this is a really common issue that I see. So it's always, I think personally that it's always better to underwater your plants, to wait at least a week between watering unless your plant is screaming for water and drooping. I always just stick my finger in the soil, and if the soil is dry, I water it. And I make sure that I buy pots that have a hole in the bottom, or I can take the plastic liner that the plant comes in out of the pot that it's in and water it so that the water comes out the bottom of it that way. Your plants need to drain, because if they're sitting in water, they get wet feet, which can cause root rot and a whole bunch of other problems. You don't have a black thumb, you just don't know what your specific plant needs. The second common complaint or concern that people have when they want to buy plants, when they want to have plants, they just assume that they can't have plants, that they assume that they don't get enough light because sun isn't 100% of the day beaming through their windows. And this is not true either. Basically, the same answer that I gave to the first one is you have to do your research, figure out what plants thrive in what environments, and a lot of times plants adjust to the environment that they're in. If your plant is used to not getting a lot of harsh sunlight, as long as it's not a very high maintenance plant that really requires sunlight to survive, it will be fine in your low lit apartment or your low lit house or in a place that doesn't get a lot of direct sunlight. The third concern is that they're not sure which ones to buy or where to put them in their home. And again, it's almost the same answer. Do your research, figure out what kind of plant you're buying. For example, this is just a palm plant that I picked up at Aldi, and most plants, if not all of them, will come with a little tag in them, and they'll usually just have like a really vague name, or sometimes it'll even just say foliage on it, so you'll have to really do your research and figure out what plant you just bought. But this one is a palm, and it's an easy care plant. They tolerate low light and hot, dry air. I always look at these tags when I'm plant shopping, and if I see that it's a plant that's going to require a lot of sunlight or a lot of care and maintenance, I usually avoid that because I don't have that many places to put larger, high maintenance plants. So this one's perfect because it can tolerate pretty much everything. Dry air. It's in a corner of my house that doesn't really see light. There's a window over here, but this is north facing, so sun doesn't really come through it, and I don't have to do much to it. I promise you, anyone and everyone can take care of plants if you do your research. Obviously, you can't just buy a plant and think that you know everything that it needs, and there's a little bit of a learning curve. Whenever I take a new plant home, it seems like it always goes through a bit of shock, because they're usually leaving like a perfect greenhouse environment. Obviously your home is not a greenhouse, so when you first take a new plant home, it may go through a little bit of a shock. It may drop some leaves, yellow some leaves, and brown some leaves, and you may have a little bit of a trial and error process where you freak out and think your plant is dying. I promise you it's not. Please do not give up on your plants. Next up, I will start by just showing you my house plants. If you are a plant expert, don't judge me. Like I said, I'm still very much an amateur. These are just the things that work for my plants in my environment and my particular care routine for them. I still don't feel like I have enough. I would really like to have plants in like every room in my house, so I'll show you the plants that I have, and then we'll talk about products and tips and tricks for caring for your plant. Okay, something to note, I do not know the Latin names for these plants. Some of them I do, but most of them I do not. I just call them their normal name. This is a palm, and it's pretty large. The pot, it's about a 12-inch pot. This is the pot that he came in, and as you can see, I still have him in the plastic liner that he came in as well. That's another mistake that people make when they bring their plants home. They think that they need to take this pot, this plastic liner off right away and repot it, and that can put your plant in a lot of shock because sometimes people choose pots that are way too big and your plant is pretty happy in here. So if you really hate the look of this black liner, just find a pot to put the liner inside of, or a basket to cover it up until your plant is happy. And if it seems like it's overgrown its pot, then you can repot. But I don't recommend taking it home to a new environment and repotting it because that's a lot of shock for your plant. See, he's got like some yellowing, just a couple yellow leaves, and that's just because I've only had him for about a month, but I haven't seen a crazy amount of yellowing on him. He's really easy to take care of, and he's got some new growth as well. And I have him on this little stool that I got at an Overstock store. It was literally $4.99 for this stool, and I thought that it made a perfect plant stand, so I've got him up here. I need to go through and wipe the leaves off again. As you can see, they're kind of dusty, but this is a really easy to take care of plant. He doesn't need much. I don't water him a whole bunch, and until he tells me that he's unhappy, I will keep him right here. We come into my kitchen, and I have this calathea. I'm not really sure what type of calathea this is. I actually just got it a couple weeks ago on Valentine's Day, and I still have the care tag in here, so it needs medium light, partial shade, water weekly so that the top inch of soil is damp. Yeah, this is a calathea, and it's pretty happy. I mean, he's unfolding new leaves pretty much every other day, so this is a new leaf coming undone. This, I'm not sure if you can see this guy. He's coming out. This guy is brand new. This guy is brand new. I love this plant. It's so soft. It's got like little fuzzies on him, and it's a pretty color. And I didn't repot him. He's still in his nursery plastic liner, and I'll show you the bottom. So the bottom has drainage holes. This terracotta pot that it is in does not have drainage holes, so I make sure to keep them. When I water him, I take the plastic liner out to make sure that the water is coming through the bottom. This is my ivy plant, and I recently had a huge struggle with this. So I think that I had let it get too dry because I thought that these plants needed dry soil. Apparently not him. So he's up here recovering. He used to be a lot more full. I had to trim off a ton off the top, but he's pretty happy. I water the soil, and I've got him here where he's not getting a ton of light, and I think that he likes it a lot better. But I love this plant because it kind of trails, and I'm hoping to like weave it along the roof in the kitchen. And then over here I've got this fiddle leaf fig tree. I bought this from the farmer's market this summer, actually in the fall. I had a bit of a struggle when I brought him home because I found some spider mites on him. And so he had a lot of leaves down here that actually browned and dropped. So I'd been treating it for spider mites. They're little fuzzy bugs that look like dust on your plants. And I just kind of spot treat it with rubbing alcohol. And I think he'll be doing okay. He hasn't lost any leaves since. I haven't seen any on him since. And it's not a growing season for a fiddle. So once it hits spring and summer, I'm hoping to see some more new growth on this. Now, everyone loves fiddle trees, but they are a little bit harder to take care of, so I don't recommend starting with a fiddle if you're a new plant mom. So in this corner I have this big chunky aloe that was actually a housewarming gift. I don't do anything to this aloe plant because you can kill an aloe if you give it attention, basically. So I recommend just leaving your aloe be until the soil is so dry. I missed it a couple times, and maybe water it like once every month or month and a half. I want to say I've even gone longer than that, but he seems to be doing fine. You do have to rotate these because they reach for the sun, so they'll start to go a little bit crazy. But yeah, I broke off a piece because I burnt myself, and aloe is great for burns. That's why I keep him in the kitchen. We come in the living room. I have some propagations going. So I'm actually trying to propagate my fiddle that I cut off, and he's starting to grow some roots. I'm not sure if you guys can see those little white guys in there, but it's starting to root a little bit. And then I propagated some of my pothos. This is actually really ready to be put in some soil, I'm just nervous to do that because I'm scared that it'll die. And then I got this tiny version of that big plant that I just showed you. It's just a palm. This is a Swiss cheese plant that I got the same time that I got that other fiddle that I just showed you. And it just pops off, like it goes crazy. It was probably, it was only about 4 inches long when I got it, and now it's like 2 feet long, and it just has new leaves every other week. And I have it in this pot that I got at the thrift store. This is the snake plant that I told you guys about. He was my first plant ever. I've got him on that stool that I told you guys I bought for $4.99. And it's growing a lot. He used to be a lot smaller. It's got a bunch of new growth down here, but I have him inside of a pot inside of this basket. And I pretty much do nothing for this guy. I mean, I water him once every 2 weeks, but other than that, snake plants don't need a lot. They can survive in low light, they can survive with really dry soil. They kind of adjust to the environment that they're in, so if you don't have windows, a snake plant is probably a good idea. My fiddle leaf fig tree, this is about 4.5 feet tall. When I got it this summer, it was only about 2 feet tall. It grew a ton, like a crazy amount. And it's actually got like this separate branch growing and this separate branch growing that I could probably separate and pot themselves, but a little scared to do that. And this is just my favorite plant. It's so beautiful. It is a little bit hard to figure out what you need to do to take care of your fiddle. I got this as a birthday present in May, and I struggled when I first got it because I overwatered and then underwatered, and it wasn't getting good light. I didn't dust off the leaves, so this is a little bit higher maintenance. Like I said, I don't recommend these if you are a new plant owner. This is a cordyline that I got at Aldi. It's got some browning. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what this guy needs, but it's still in its nursery liner in this pot, and it's really pretty. It's like a pink and red color. But yeah, I don't do much for this guy either. This plant is a string of bananas. These are pretty easy to take care of. It's grown a lot. I just have him hanging in this window. I let his soil dry completely before I water it, and that's about it. You do have to watch out for spider mites, the little fuzzy guys on here, because this is kind of like a succulent, and they are just known to have those little bugs on them. This is a new golden pothos that I got a couple weeks ago. It's got some browning. It wasn't in a very well draining pot when I bought it, so he's still in recovery, but it's doing pretty well in this window. And if you are a new plant owner, pothos are always a really good plant because they can withstand a lot and don't require a lot of attention. And then this is a clipping from my ivy plant I showed you that I propagated, and it needs to be planted in some soil. Such a cute little guy. It's always nice to have propagations going and use them as decor, so I have them on the shelf. And then I love this plant. This is a ZZ plant. This is another great plant I would recommend to new plant owners because it doesn't need a lot of really anything. They can survive a lot into my bedroom. This ivy plant in this corner that I just got last week, a snake plant. It's still in its nursery pot inside of this pot, and it doesn't need anything really. It's grown a little bit, but snake plants are very slow growing. They just kind of survive and do their thing. And last but not least, in my office, I have another golden pothos that I have in a terracotta pot. It's actually got some new growth unfolding on it, and I'm pretty happy with that because it's been a while since I've seen new growth on it, so I'm hoping that that means good things and that spring is coming. I can't believe I actually almost forgot to show you guys. I don't consider them plants. I have my little Jiffy greenhouse with seedlings, and this I could probably have to do a whole nother separate video on. This is my very first time doing this, so I can't answer questions. But we have our aerogarden where we're growing basil, 2 different types of basil, parsley, thyme, and dill. And then this was supposed to be mint, but we kind of got a dud pod and nothing ever grew out of it. So Actually took it out and put my own seedling in there, so I guess we'll see what happens. And then I've got some parsley drying out under the grow light. We're gonna talk about like plant care tips. I have this watering can that I got on Amazon. This is actually really important. I was just using a pitcher and like a cup to water my plants, but I found that it poured in super fast and heavy, and it was making the soil get a bunch of dents, and kind of I was losing soil and the plant was getting a lot of water all at once. I got this really pretty watering can from Amazon, and it has a really long and thin hose at the end, and this allows like a little bit of water to come out at a time, and it gently waters the soil and waters the roots real slowly instead of it being hit with a lot of water all at once. Another very important thing is I only water my plants with filtered water. So we have a countertop Brita water filter that holds like 2 gallons, I think, that I got on Amazon, and I only use that to water my plants because tap water is really not great for your plants. It's got a lot of chemicals in it that would cause some of your plants, especially the more sensitive ones, to just get chemical burns, and they don't like it. So I have this watering can. I will link it in the description box. It's so cute. I leave it on my little shelf and it looks so pretty, and I find it very helpful. And this I know is super controversial, but I enjoy doing it, so I'm gonna keep doing it. I have this little plant mister, and it's just so nice, and you just press it and it lets out like a big misting. I don't think that they've proven that misting your plants really does much, but I do feel like it's fun and I want to do it when I can. So I mist my plants a couple days a week, and I don't mist them heavily, but the ivy that I told you guys is in rehab. I've been misting it every day, and I do think that it's helping because I've seen new growth, and it had been struggling for a while. So this has been said that it can help increase the humidity on your plants, but also it's just going to evaporate. I like it. I think that it's helping my plants, but I would recommend getting a humidifier. If you live in the Midwest or anywhere where you have a harsh winter, your house is going to be very dry. You probably notice it on your own skin and just with your sinuses and stuff, so it'll help you and your plants if you get a humidifier. I just get a cool mist humidifier. Humidifiers and diffusers are very different, so make sure you get a humidifier. I have one that I leave next to my big plants in the corner over there, and then one that I use in my bedroom every night just for me. But humidifiers help in putting some more humidity in the air, and your plants love that, and they need that to grow, and they need that to kind of sustain themselves during the winter and during some more dry months. A couple other things that I use for my plants. I always have a fresh bag of indoor potting mix on hand, because whenever I spot some sort of bug or tiny little pests on my plant, I always like to kind of scoop up the top layer of the soil in that particular plant, throw it out, and replace it with some fresh potting soil just on the top, because that can usually eliminate any eggs or kind of suffocate the bugs that were there. And whenever I spot bugs, I use this 18-in-1 Hemp Baby Unscented Pure Castle Soap by Dr. Bronners. And what I do is I put a tiny bit of this in a spray bottle with some filtered water and some neem oil, or if you don't have neem oil, this should do the trick just fine. And I just gently spray the topsoil of those plants and the leaves of those plants with this mixture, and usually I don't see bugs after that, and you'll have to do it a couple times to get rid of them fully, but this is a really good thing to have around the house. Not to mention that it has like literally 25 uses. I use it to clean my countertops. You can use it in your hair. You can use it on your face to take makeup off. Like, it is just such clean ingredients that you can use it for everything. I actually haven't tried this yet, so I'm not sure if I can recommend it, but I did see good reviews. I have this Super Thrive Vitamin A for all plants, and I got this because of the seedlings that I started. They're going to be needing some of this to get started with their growing process, but it says that you can use it with all indoor plants. Those are the products that I use to help take care of my plants. And I think that that will kind of wrap up everything. The last thing that I would say is just the more confident that you are with a houseplant, the better it will be in the long run. Like, if you're super scared to do anything with it, it's probably going to die. Really just listen to your plant, be okay with maybe losing a couple troopers along the way, and be okay with trying new things. There's a lot of trial and error, and you can't just give up after you have one issue with a plant, but I personally love having them around the house. I think that plants kind of replace decor for me, and they make our home feel a lot more homey. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you did, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to do more videos like this, and I hope that this was helpful to you. Make sure that you hit the thumbs up button if it was, and the subscribe button if you haven't already, and make sure you go out of your way today to love on someone and make them feel extra special just because they are, and I will catch you guys in the next video.